beautiful internet people. My name is Ann Pinkova. This is the lovely Deplorable Knitter. And today we're going to bring you politically incorrect knitters. Yay!
Yay! So Ann and I are brand new to this, so bear with us. It might be a little weird.
Just a little bit. Still have to get used to talking to the camera as if there are other people on, not just the Chinese government. So.
That is true.
I suppose we should say why we are here, or what started us knitting, or...
So, well, I started knitting when I was a kid. I think my mom taught me when I was probably 8. And then I didn't do it until I was like 20. And then I didn't do it again until I was like 30.
Well, you know,
I was one of those knitters.
By the decades works well.
I only ever knit patterns. And then one day I was hanging out in a group with conservative knitters, and somebody said, hey, the midterm is coming up. Mm-hmm. I would like a hat that says walk away. Does anybody know of a pattern for it? And I was like, no. And nobody else responded, and nobody else. And I'm like, you know what? I think I could design that. That doesn't seem hard. Never mind.
It always seems weird to me, the patterns that there aren't.
Right.
Sometimes, you're walking like, oh yeah, well, I want a pattern that has a bird on it. So many birds. I want a pattern that says this or that. It's like, harder.
Yeah. But, so she wanted the pattern. I never made one, but I'm like, it can't be that hard. Mm-hmm. And then I had also never done color work.
Oh.
So it was I wrote the pattern on a piece of graph paper.
Right.
I knit it. I didn't know how to do color work. Inside of my pattern, I had snipped ends because I didn't know how to carry floats. But I mean, I kind of got the idea, but this happened on a Friday afternoon. I had the pattern out Saturday morning. So I didn't have a lot of time to refine anything. I just kind of was like, I'm going to wing this and see what happens.
Right.
And so that's how I did my first pattern.
Right.
And then I put it on Ravelry. And a lot of people liked it. A lot of people were like, this is a really great pattern. I love it, blah, blah. And then they were like, oh, I told Brandon Straka about it. And, he's the guy who started the walkaway movement.
Oh, sure.
So they were like, oh, I told him that this is out.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, these people were telling me that, I was a Nazi. And I was a Russian bot. And I'm like, what? When did that happen?
Don't you hate it when you wake up one morning and you're like, dang, this whole time I've been a Russian bot. I never knew.
I didn't know that. I didn't. And a lot of them said a lot of crappy stuff to me, which I'm sure that anybody who's been around knitting in the past year or two can imagine.
It's ridiculous.
But the people liked it. A lot of people liked it. And I didn't necessarily get a ton of vocal support on my patterns, but I got a lot of messages. Right. And then people were like, hey, are you going to make more? And I was like, no. This was a favor to a friend. But then I did. I did my Trump pattern, and then it just snowballed, and I've been releasing around one a month. I have times where I don't, but yeah. It went from hey, I don't know how to do color work, but I can try to, okay, now I'm a pattern designer.
Right.
It's kind of a weird thing to happen.
It is pretty exciting. I mean, with my first actual, I've designed stuff, but I had never, written a pattern. It's mostly me in a notebook suddenly deciding that I should actually write down what I do because I forget from one to another.
Right.
And, the pivotal moment. But
I think you'll remember. You always, when you're naming it, you're always like, oh, I'll remember how to do this. And then you look at it later and you're like, what?
What did I do? This isn't what? Or even looking back and going whatever I did, it was wrong. Looking at your knitting stuff, no.
No, that's not right.
No, like you said with the back of the color work where you cut things. Mm-hmm. I made, this was probably like, again, a decade ago of work. But I made a sweater for my dog, and I didn't know how to do V-neck, and I just cut it, and like every single end I like knotted behind for the collar. Oh, it was so bad. Dog hated the sweater anyway, so it was irrelevant. I just got one good picture out of it. But it's just like looking at this sweater like, this is painful to look at the inside of this. Just put it in the corner.
Yeah. Well, when I made that hat, like a lot of people were making fun of it, and I was kind of going like, it's my first ever color work. Like, give me a little bit of credit. It is a pattern. It worked. Other people did it.
Yeah,
so,
like, I didn't think I would get this far.
You know, and it took me like 12 hours, and I was like, for that, I can't really be that mad.
Like, works for me.
You get what you get.
Yeah, I mean, so first published pattern was for me was the Betsy Ross beanie, which I still love. But no, when I did it was right after the Ravelry thing, which we haven't gotten to yet. But the Ravelry thing, and then Colin Kaepernick saying that he wouldn't wear the Betsy Ross Nike shoe, which is a double insult, because on one hand, he said that it was because Betsy Ross is evil and racist, and the woman's a Quaker. There is no people who take equality as seriously as Quakers. Like, you know, if you are in a Quaker congregation, doesn't matter race, you know, if you're slave or free, male, female, anybody, they're very serious. You have a vote, you're a Quaker. You know, throughout their entire history. And also insults the founding of the country. And also, aside from all of that, the Nike shoes are made in China by slaves. Like, that's also an insult to Betsy. So both sides, it's like, let's, yeah.
Trying to make this big stand, and never mind the fact that it's a current slave issue right now.
Right. Well, I don't.
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I don't support Betsy Ross because I don't think she's a slave owner. I mean, I could be wrong, but no.
I don't think so.
Nope. I'd never heard of it. Not that that's impossible, but it's like, I don't think she's a slave owner. But you know who is slave owners? Nike. Let's be honest about here. But yeah, so really ticked about that. Really, you know, dissing my girl Betsy, founding mother, excellent businesswoman, just brilliant and well respected by everyone. So I was sitting there and listening to the radio, and they were talking about it. So I had some graph note paper, and I just like quick scribbled out the chart for the Betsy Ross flag. And I just I was knitting something else at the time, so I just grabbed the chart towards me, just scribble on it, push it to the side of, okay, I probably won't do that, and tried to move on. And it's like, no, I'm doing this. I'm really ticked. Yeah. So yeah, and which was absolutely, when I do color work, I'll normally do like a little sample piece beforehand. And for that one, I didn't even do that. I'm just, you know, I'm just like, nah, I think I pretty much know how it'll work. I do a lot of intarsia or modified intarsia sort of color work block on beanies anyways. So that sort of concept wasn't separate or difficult for me. I think my dog just walked in. There's Mom.
I saw the door open. I was wondering who was coming.
Right. That's right. So yeah, sweet girl. But anyways. But yeah, so just whipped out the hat, and it was really, really bizarre. You know, I hadn't even finished the hat yet. I just had a little bit of it, and I took a picture of it and put it out on Instagram. And just the amount of like immediate, like everyone was interested in it. Where's the pattern? I'm like, oh, whoa, hi guys.
It's weird, isn't it, when people first start like asking you stuff about your knitting, and you're like, me?
Right?
Are you sure?
Like, Like I've been putting out stuff that I've knit on Instagram for a long time now, and no one's ever been interested.
Yeah, see,
I
now I was
mean,
the opposite. I never had Instagram until somebody said to me, hey, you should have an Instagram account.
right.
I said, well, all right, I'll try it.
Right.
Whatever.
No, I was mostly, I mean, taking pictures of my knitting, but also my lunch and my dog. Like
Right.
it wasn't like an important thing. And my Etsy shop, like when I first started the Etsy shop, a lot of it is like superhero inspired knitting stuff, because I figure, if I'm out here and I'm knitting a blue striped hat, okay, why would you buy my blue striped hat versus the thousands and thousands of other blue striped hats out on the internet? So I'm like, okay, so try to cater to a specific kind of niche, which I guess I'm trying to get a little bit more away from now. Luckily, Loki is a figure of Norse myth, and you can still say that.
That's cool.
So that's cool.
I don't know as much about superheroes as you do, so I'm constantly being educated.
Well, it's a fun world. It's pretty much over, but that's cool.
Why?
No, they just finished with Endgame, and it basically the consensus that they're putting out superhero movies, but please stop. So,
I didn't realize that. I'm not part of it, so.
It's funny. Like they're putting out TV shows about different favorite characters. They're like, oh, don't you want to see Falcon and Winter Soldier? I'm like, I love those characters. I'm so excited. Please stop. Like, you're beating a dead horse at this point. You're like,
Right.
Please, I love these characters. I think it's great. These are great. I love the actors. Everybody's wonderful. Love you all so much. Big hearts all around. Please stop. That's getting off subject. But yeah,
Okay.
so the Betsy Ross hat, yeah. So, and then I drug my feet so long with the whole project that I don't think I actually got it out till maybe like September. Like the Ravelry thing is on the 23rd of June, and I remember because that's also when Fiberkind started, and I used to send little messages about our monthly anniversary of how long the website had been around, because Fiberkind started as a sort of reply to Ravelry, that you suddenly had all these very homeless people trying to find someplace online.
Yep.
The Colin Kaepernick thing happened within the 4th of July week. So yeah, I was very
so
behind.
It was all right in the same block of 2 weeks or so.
Right.
Ravelry, Colin, nonsense. So.
Yeah. So that was crazy. But yeah, so that all happened in several weeks. But yeah, it's lots of really happy feedback from the Betsy Ross thing. There he goes.
Yep.
But yeah, so and then sort of the weird, I've tried to put out other patterns, but nobody likes anything as much as Betsy. So I'm gonna try.
Yeah, it's hard when you start with something fairly iconic. Like,
right.
My most popular patterns have always been like my Trump 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter what else I do. Even my Women for Trump wasn't as popular.
Right.
Because I think the Trump 2020, you can make that for anybody who likes Trump, and it's fine. But we did want to talk about what happened with Ravelry. And there's a history there that I don't know that a ton of people know about. And so we were going to touch on that a little bit before we kind of talked about the whole other thing that happened last year. So there was the bunker, right?
There was the bunker, which is always a fun thing to say. No, but...
Well, did you know that they said that was a Nazi thing?
I saw that. Yeah.
So there was a group that was McCain, Palin supporters, and after the election and McCain didn't win, they changed their name because obviously it wasn't relevant anymore. Right. And they were looking at like how some of the people around them were kind of hateful, and they were like, let's have like a safe place, like where we can kind of chill and hang out. It'll be our little bunker.
Yeah.
So obviously they're Nazis, but
of course. because like bunker hasn't been a term used for
because people
many.
don't like there's not a bunker under the White House, and people don't have them in their backyards, and
Right.
whatever.
Right. Like not every English home during World War II. Clearly only the Nazis were into the bunker thing.
Right.
Not,
everyone. Other people didn't have like safe spaces from the bombings.
Right. Not at all. Not at all. It's not like a worldwide thing or anything.
No.
It's just
Nazis.
Narrowly focused. All the time. All the time, always a Nazi thing. Like, which is also funny. It's like, like Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. Do you know much about the Nazis?
I don't think so.
Keep saying it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, nonsense.
We can touch on Nazis more later. But yeah, so they had the bunker, and they were trying to do what they needed to keep their group away from the trolls, and they were trying to, regroup after they were totally disappointed that Obama won, which is, it happens when your person loses.
Yeah, it sucks.
You can see it when Hillary lost, the people crying, it's the same thing. It was, quiet.
So I still remember after Hillary lost to Trump, and it was, I don't know if you had this going on in your Facebook, but like the people who felt that they needed to have the long public forum, it was like everyone had their own press conference. I don't know if that happened to you, but like, well, he wasn't my favorite candidate, but he won, or the people sobbing about having to tell their children that they might need to keep their immigrant neighbors in their basement Holocaust style to hide them away from this terrible, like people were literally saying that.
They had some really, really like bizarre ideas, but
right. Like
the bunker.
Crazy stuff. I'm sorry. But
it's okay.
So anyways, did you sob when Obama was elected president? Did you tell people about what horrible things in long form email?
When Obama was elected, he was not my choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I still felt hopeful because I thought, maybe with an African-American president, some positive things can happen, that communities can come together. And I wasn't really sad until he was elected the second time. Because then it was it was sad when he was elected the second time. It just was. There was so much division, and the economy was bad, and I couldn't understand how people couldn't see that it was not a good thing for the country.
Right. Well, for proving my age range, I wasn't old enough to vote for Obama the first time. That I wasn't old enough for that election. No, but I was also not homeschooled my whole life, but homeschooled during that time. So I was always listening to conservative radio, knew all about Jeremiah Wright and all the crazy stuff that he did. Like, oh, this guy is not good. Mm-hmm. And then sort of the voting for Romney over Obama, people say a lot of things about Trump, but when I voted for Romney, it made me physically ill. Like, I'm like, okay, Obama, I don't want any more of Obama. Terrible, terrible policies, everything else. Okay, I'll vote for Romney. What a weasel.
Yeah, and you know what? Until you said that he ran against him the second time, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
That's how great of a candidate he was.
I know. Let's just block him out of my memory. It's much better for everybody that way.
His colors anyway lately, so
I know.
Not it's a favorite.
I know. But yeah, just walking by like, I voted for you. Again, I didn't feel good about it, but I voted for you.
Sometimes it's the lesser of two evils. But anyway.
Definitely. But anyways, Bunker. They're having a hard time. Our girl Sarah Palin wasn't in.
No. And they, so there's a lot of different stories about what happened with the bunker. And if you were to go on to Ravelry and check for it, apparently the people in it were terrible and they were horrible to other people and blah, blah, blah. But in doing some research for this, I found some screenshots of the admin of the bunker speaking with Cassidy about there are a lot of these trolls. What can we do to get rid of them? Blah, blah, blah. And some of the messages were like, yeah, we know they're an issue. I'm sorry you have to deal with it, but, and then they still got banned.
Right.
It was like almost saying like, I know that the people that are bothering you are these other people, but you lose.
I know.
So,
no, it's like, oh yeah, you're having some problems. That's okay. Let's talk it out. Also, restraining order. Like, what?
So I think we haven't touched on the thing. So the bunker happened. Right. The people got all Twitter-pated. The trolls were coming into the group saying mean things to the people. Like, apparently one person talked about her mother passing. Yeah. And all the people came in and like started hitting the funny button on it. Like, right. That's just, why? Why be rude like that? There's no good reason for it.
And also, again, wasn't in the bunker, but
I wasn't either.
I know. Came in too late.
Yeah.
Which was also really funny, but pausing for the second. No, but from what I heard, like there was only ever about 20 members of the group online at once. They would talk about things. Mm-hmm. They had a pretty solid rule about, they wouldn't like use bad language, or like they wouldn't like call any Democratic candidates just like blank, 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 blank.
Right,
but
exactly. They tried to be respectful.
Right. I mean, they'd be snarky, but not like anything, they're not just like shouting obscenities at each other about how much they hate this political candidate, which doesn't seem productive, but that's cool.
Their policy on the trolls too was to not even engage on them. They were like, it's like if somebody comes in your house and craps on your carpet, you clean it up and you kick them out. So they would delete comments and kick people out and do what they could to keep the community the way they wanted it.
Right. And, very much was essentially a conservative knitting group. Come sit, come talk politics, have a good time. But no, you can't. You can't talk your politics.
Talk it here because we're going to come in and wreck it for you.
Right. It's not even don't come into let's say a more Democrat group. It's not even don't come into our group and with your conservative politics. It was we have our own group and you're busting in and saying that we can't, talk and here. Well, why can't we?
And, there might be people who went into other groups and caused trouble. Like, I don't know the whole thing. I wasn't part of it. So that could have happened. I don't want it to be like, oh, they were perfect.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure that there were people who got ticked and were like talking crap to other people because it's human nature.
People are people. But at the core of the group, that doesn't.
Yeah, they tried to be respectful and kind and whatever.
Right.
And they actually ended up taking their stuff offsite. They got like a forum where everybody was going, and then they would like link Ravelry threads to check out, and then they would discuss elsewhere so that the trolls wouldn't be bothering them. That's how it went down.
Right. Like, and also with a management of the website thing, if the admin of the entire website is not going to help you get rid of trolls, and you're like, okay, so we're going to do our own platform so we can, we can, play with the kids who want to play with us and not the trolls who just want to come in.
You don't have to hang out with the bullies because you shouldn't have to. And so when they were in their own group, it was in March of 2009, they started going to Ravelry and they were getting like the 404, 403, whatever it is, the forbidden error that says you can't, and they were like, oh, something's wrong with the site. And then come to find out, no, they were all just gone forever. They were just poof.
I know. And not even what they pretended to do later of, well, you just can't talk, but you can still have like your notebook and your actual like yarn information, like the reason that you use the website primarily, like your notebooks, all of your, if you sat there and inputted every scrap of yarn you have and your needles and everything else. Oh yeah, that's all gone now.
Peace out.
Bye.
When they were, so like they didn't get notice that they were going to be taken out of the group.
Not at all.
Right? They people who bought patterns never got their patterns, even though they got a fancy letter from a fancy lawyer saying, oh, you'll get your stuff and this and that. And I have a copy of the letter somewhere. I'm sure I could link it on my website.
Right.
But it went from Cassidy saying, okay, I'm going to work with you guys, try to do this, try to do that. Yeah, taking it off site is a really great idea, to him her saying that it's a denial of, they tried to do something, I think it's called a denial of service, where they like swarmed the Ravelry site to try to crash it. And the women that I've spoken to that were in it, they were like, we didn't even know what that was until we were accused of it.
Right. And also swarm the website to crash it. Like,
all 20 of them at one time.
Right.
My goodness.
Not sure if the server can take it. Like,
so, yeah.
Could you imagine? I mean, I would, I guess with some sort of denial of service swarming, that you'd probably get some sort of computer program or something for more accounts. Maybe, I have no idea. I'm not very tech oriented. But can you imagine actively telling your friends, instead of like, I want everyone I know to go on Ravelry right now to swarm their website? What?
I think that there were like 200 of them. So I think even if all 200 of them had hopped on, it wouldn't have like hurt anything.
Wouldn't have rocked the boat at all. I mean,
there's usually around 4,000 people on it. So whatever. Whatever. Unless maybe back then their servers weren't as high capacity, but even still. Even
so, that was, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Just like the Olympic thing, which I don't know if we should touch on yet, but that was angry.
I think we'll talk about that next time.
We'll talk about that next time. Yeah. But if you have that, like, even if you have like, say, 4,000 angry people, again, not gonna,
it's not gonna do a whole lot to most things nowadays, but whatever.
No, not really.
So that's our understanding of the bunker. I'm sure we left out a lot. I'm sure that people who are involved have a lot more to say about it, but this is us doing research and trying to figure it out on our own.
Right. And especially since he came to their forum afterwards to harass them.
Right.
Like,
and then there were like conversations about Secret Service going to his house and that stuff just.
Yeah.
That if people were threatening the president, they would go to the people's house that was threatening the president, not the owner of the website where it happened.
Right.
So that whole story is kind of,
I don't know,
a little iffy.
There's a lot of iffiness.
Yeah, there is.
Anyways. So yeah. So Ravelry does have a history of, harassing conservatives. Which again,
it started back in the Obama campaign. Not just when he was elected, but before it, when he was campaigning, it was an issue.
Yeah. Which again is wild. I don't know if I used Ravelry before then, but again, I had no clue. For me, I didn't even use the forums at all. It was sort of just a show up and sometimes spend an evening going through patterns, save, download a couple.
Yeah, that's what I always did. I never actually went into a forum until I posted my patterns.
Really?
I did not even really, I knew they were there, but I didn't care. I had other stuff to do. I wasn't going to hang out online. Yeah. And now I hang out online a lot, unfortunately. It's a little bit of a bummer.
It's getting bad.
I get into that Instagram hole and I can't get out, but so most everyone knows what happened last June, but personally for me, I started having issues with Ravelry. So I posted my first pattern in November of 2018. Right. And I had a lot of people bothering me, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I actually talked to Cassidy. Polite to me, helpful, and then I posted my Trump pattern. I got I was a Russian bot and, those things were happening, but not a big deal. But then in January of 2019, I put up the Build the Wall hat and people decided I was a racist and a xenophobe. And coincidentally, I put that pattern out the same time that the Karen Templar India essay exploded. So my pattern was up for 3 days, something like that. Right, and I think it was kind of because that other stuff was happening. And so my pattern was this little blip and that was happening over here. And so it didn't necessarily get noticed right away.
True. But then, if we're gonna unload on her for something innocuous, then why not unload on you?
Well, mine is super racist.
Apparently.
Because heaven forbid we want to have laws in our country. Is an email from Ravelry telling me we don't want a pattern that supports the president's racist wall. That was the quote. I think it actually said, Jess and I don't want a pattern on our site that supports the president's racist wall. There's a way to see the rejections on Ravelry. And if you go into that, it's actually been changed since then to be a little bit more diplomatic. But
you get a nice screen cap of that?
Version. That was why I got removed, because it's a racist wall.
Right.
So
the wall itself is racist.
Well, I think supporting it is also racist. So there you go.
Well,
I had.
So there.
That's what we did. That was that. And then I released patterns for until June. And then in June, I happened to make a hat that says God is love. And it was gray. And it had rainbow yarn on it.
That is the worst. What are you thinking?
Well, I released it during Pride Month, which I actually didn't realize it was Pride Month because I don't mark that on my calendar. But like, that's okay. I mean, I don't have anything against it. I just didn't realize it. And so I did it because if you're a Christian in the Bible, God gave us the rainbow as a promise.
Right.
And things have been kind of bleak for some years now. I mean, there's a lot of fighting and blah, blah. And so I was kind of looking at the rainbow's promise thinking, God is love. We love everybody. Everything is happy. And then I got, so now I'm a homophobe. And like, so that pattern got removed because I'm a homophobe.
Right. But it's like, I didn't even mention you guys.
Well, no, the true, I did mention the true meaning of the rainbow though, which was God's promise that he would never annihilate the earth again.
There you go. By flood.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, by flood. But you know, it was a God's covenant with the people. And I mentioned, but I didn't mention pride and I didn't mention.
Right.
So just that happened.
Mentioning that God exists and he made the rainbow. Like, it wasn't.
That's super offensive if you don't believe in God. So I guess I get that. Like, and whatever.
Like, it's like literally, I'm sorry guys, I know you love the rainbow, but you didn't contribute to putting it in the sky. I'm sorry, you don't control the weather. And
even if there's no God and science did it, it was still there way before
right
everything else. So whatever.
I mean, like, if you're using it for a symbol, A+, but you don't own it. It's not just yours, it's everybody's. Like,
and I have kids, and that's part of why I wanted to like, I have kids and they're small and they love rainbows and sunshine and flowers and so I was kind of going for more of that kind of thing, like that we can use the rainbow as Christians and God gave it to us and that's fine. Right.
And so, for a little bit with coronavirus, everyone was doing rainbow hearts in the window, and that was to support the hospital system, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. That it was like taking, like, the rainbow can mean other things, and which was interesting. It was that
taking back the rainbow, but
not taking back the rainbow, but it was like, let's do rainbow hearts for this one. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's cool, and you know, bring a little sunshine to people, and that's awesome.
Right.
So after I was a homophobe and a xenophobe and a racist,
yes,
June 18th, the president announced his campaign to run again.
Oh yeah.
So on that day, I released a cowl. It said, Trump 2020, keep America great.
Right. Okay? You know, like his literal slogan.
His slogan.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it said. And so after that, I was informed. Oh, wait. Back to the rainbow thing?
Back to the rainbow thing.
That was removed from the site for being a homophobic dog whistle. I didn't know what a dog whistle was. I had to look it up.
There's so many dog whistles, I'm like, who's hearing it? Because it's not.
Well, I didn't hear it. I didn't know what it was. So I had that going on. So, but then I released the Trump 2020 cowl that said Keep America Great. And it was coded speech for keeping brown and black people out of the country. It's coded hate speech against brown and black people, which I didn't know. So I'm really super glad that I was educated.
Wow, that's right. Educate yourself.
I had no idea.
Because, again, half of the country voted for Trump. Half of them. All half.
All half are racist.
Right,
and
apparently.
Black people, according
including
to
the black people.
That voted for him.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. How do you do that?
I don't know. It's like, Trump is so racist that he brainwashed people who are not white to vote for him. Like, it's so nonsense.
So when that pattern was up, it was up. It was only up for 3 days, I think.
Right.
And it got a lot of reports on it. And I don't know.
Nice bold pattern too. A+ designing. Not that I shouldn't have said, not that the other ones aren't good, but I saw that one. It was very very bold.
It was striking the way it was with the gray and the not rainbow, the American colors.
Right. Very red, white, and blue. Whoa.
Yes.
Clear message. Good knit.
I think Ravelry has changed their reporting mechanism since my pattern was out. I don't know. But at the time, if you flagged a pattern or reported it, those sticky notes were available for anybody to see.
Right.
And so a lot of people reported it. I would go in and get rid of the sticky notes because at one point in time, they had told me that was the thing to do. I needed to make sure that any hateful comments were, I needed to moderate my own items.
Okay.
To so that there wasn't a lot of angry conversation. There wasn't a lot of, to keep it kind and nice. And so I would, when I posted a pattern, I would spend days on Ravelry moderating stuff to try to keep the back and forth down. Right. They said if it's not about the pattern, it needs to be not associated with it. So I did that. And so these sticky notes are showing up all over my pattern.
Right.
At one point in time, I went in and there was it was just huge pages of sticky notes. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And you can see some of them on my Instagram. I have a highlight reel of some of them, if anybody wants to look. But I would go in and I would delete them because sticky notes, the way that was set up was to say oh, hey, I click your link and your pattern doesn't work kind of thing.
Right.
Not to say, oh, you're a racist. So anything that wasn't about my pattern and whatever, I would get rid of. But they were public. So you could go into my pattern and you could see the username of who posted whatever.
Right.
And so apparently.
Because it is a comment, essentially. You have your name, you comment.
Yes. Yes. And they're visible to anybody that wanted to look at them. I think it's changed now, but I don't know because I was removed from the site on June 21st.
Nice.
So I couldn't.
You were removed before they got rid of everybody. That's exciting.
Well, I think that they were on purpose removing my patterns at the end there. I mean, I had 2 removed in June. I had the God is Love and the Trump 2020 removed in June. And I think that they were kind of using the 3-strike system. So because they were able to say I was racist and a homophobe and all that.
Right.
But it was unfortunate that apparently somebody who commented on my cowl was doxxed. And another thing, I didn't know what it was. I had to look up what doxing was. Right. And I mean, I feel really bad because I can get really ticked off and I can swear and have a tantrum with the best of them. But I really, most days, do my best to live my life as a Christian. Not just one that says I'm a Christian and then does shady stuff in the dark. I try to really do it. And so it bothers me that somebody that was following me harassed another person.
Right.
And I'm not even clear on how it happened. People are saying that my husband did it. My lovely husband who has no social media. And can't order stuff online if I'm not helping him, but he doxed her.
Right.
And I'm not saying that nothing happened to her.
Right.
I did hear that she had posted her address in a yarn exchange group.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's how something happened, But I never saw any screenshots for them to say it was my husband.
That's weird.
It wasn't me. I mean, when I heard it, I immediately condemned it because I don't want to be involved in that.
Right.
But yeah, so all of that nonsense happened, and then and I'm really, really sorry that did happen to her, like, for real.
Right.
But yeah, so all of that happened, and then I think that I was taken off on the 21st, and then on the 23rd they came out with their brand new fabulous policy.
Yeah. Super nice.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. And, so when the policy came out, I was actually, I was on vacation. It was a long weekend with my family. So, and where we were at, we didn't have very good internet coverage at all. So, like, internet's kind of sketchy. And I'm like, how it's very terrible how addicted we are to our phones. And I'm like, internet's bad. And I'm like, but wait, is it like
if I stand here?
If I stand right here, yeah, I have internet.
6 feet.
I know. It's like this weird corner. Well, and then like everywhere else where we were staying didn't have much internet, but actually where the bedroom was, you could just get a barely bit of internet. So I wake up in the morning and my alarm clock's on my phone. I look at my phone. I'm like, ooh, maybe I can get into Instagram. I can. Woohoo. Look, it's loading slowly, but I can do this. And no, one of the first things was like, we support Ravelry. And I'm like, or we stand with Ravelry, or whatever the initial thing was.
The initial thing was we stand with Ravelry, but then it was determined that was ableist, right? Is that the term?
Right.
And
right,
so then
because it's only for people who can stand, not
right.
even metaphor. Like the Joe Biden thing, stand up for Chuck, and Chuck was in a wheelchair. Did you hear that clip?
No.
And he's like, oh man, God bless you, Chuck. Well, we'll all stand for you. And then everybody stand up for Chuck. Oh, it was good. Anyways.
Okay, so on Instagram,
Sorry, on Instagram, separate from Joe Biden gaff machine. On Instagram, we stand with Ravelry, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know what Ravelry does. But again, no perception of Ravelry having any sort of political anything else. I'm like, oh, they didn't say anything with it, just that we stand with Ravelry and some little nothing statement under it. I'm like, oh, this must be a good thing. I saved it, but, I didn't think anything of it. Like, I liked the first post, and I kept going, and I'm like, oh, wait, what is
something's
this?
going on.
Right, like go back, angrily tap on like the most passive aggressive. Like, I guess I don't like this anymore. No, to wake up and then like just the ultimate in you are unacceptable as a human. You cannot play with us anymore. You are the worst. Like, to label again half of the country as a racist, to say half of the country is intolerable and not fit for any public interaction.
Right.
That you are so beyond the pale that you can no longer go into online forums and talk about yarn.
Yeah.
And
well, no. We were allowed to talk about yarn. We just were not allowed to have any viewpoint that didn't mesh with theirs.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
They didn't say you can't talk about yarn.
No, within a week they were out though. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, definitely. No, the initial statement was, well, I mean, we're not banning conservatives or Republicans. We're just banning Trump supporters. Yeah, cut to
vocal Trump supporters.
Vocal Trump supporters.
And they weren't supposed to go back, but then they did.
Right. But also cut to people who were like, hey, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I don't support this policy. I know people who are Trump supporters, and they're like blocked, shut out, banned.
Because heaven forbid you have a different viewpoint.
Right. Or even be acceptable or be accepting of people who have different viewpoints. We love everybody so much that all of these people, it's a no from us. That, like just...
I'm going to pass.
A hard pass on half of the country.
We don't really like you guys. Sorry.
Yeah, well, all these people who just want to hang out and talk about yarn. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and sorry, a little thing that I just remembered.
Right.
When all of the stuff was going on with my last pattern that was on Ravelry,
Right.
I attempted to contact the powers that be many times because I was like, they're saying these things and now they're saying the doxing and I'm uninvolved in it and I want to know what I can do to help.
Right.
Radio silence. Because they had already decided that I wasn't a person worth wasting their time on.
Yeah.
So
why actually help anyone who's having problems? That's ridiculous.
Right. And, I'm being accused of whatever and doxing and I'm coming to you saying, hey, what can I do? I didn't do this. What can I, and we can't help you. But for me, when it happened, I was in church. My phone was in my purse and it just kept vibrating. And I'm like, oh my, like I stepped out of church because I'm like, is there an emergency?
Right.
Like I was concerned that somebody was trying to get a hold of me and it was my Instagram. Like I had like 1,000 messages. Like, did you see this? I'm like, what happened?
Like, I'm sorry. It's a Sunday morning.
It's Sunday morning. I am in church and holy crap. What?
Right. Like, oh man, it's ridiculous. No, but I know, like, there's been a lot of different talk about, I don't know, social justice, but also the idea of mob justice that if a group of people say that you're wrong, you're wrong. Like, there's no part of having a justice system, a court, is to be like, okay, here's this side doesn't like this person, this side is defending this person, you need both accusation and defense, and then you need to look at the facts. Well, the facts don't matter in any sort of mob situation. It's just anger and you did this, you did that, like, but I didn't. There's no, if you had doxed somebody, then you could sit there and be like, okay, she did do this or that or what, and you could go through. But no, it's just, we say you did this, you're out.
Right, and heaven forbid you support the duly elected president.
Right.
So you are dangerous to us now.
Right. You are dangerous for saying even that he's a duly elected president, you Russian bot. And
I forgot that was a bot, sorry. These things slip my mind.
Oh, man.
But it's just, the whole mob thing, it's just, they think that there are more of them than I believe that there are because they are morally indignant. They believe within their hearts that we are truly bad people.
Right.
And so it is super easy to denounce us. Whereas I was actually just talking to my grandpa about it this morning.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, they truly believe that I am, in my core, a horrible person. Whereas people with conservative, Christian, those kinds of values look at people and say, you have some horrible ideas. Right. I cannot support anything but I don't believe you personally are a horrible person.
Right.
Like some of the stuff you're coming up with, I need some of what you're smoking because it must be a good time.
Right. Oh, some of the stuff I'm like, that would have just horrible consequences. Like, I don't believe that you want bad things to happen, but I'm looking at that going, yeah, I don't think the consequences from that would be,
yeah. I think a lot of people have really good intentions.
Right.
Like a lot of the stuff that I see, it's not necessarily born out of hate or meanness but it's not going to come out the way you think it is. Once you execute that, whatever, getting rid of all the people, well, then you're going to lose pattern sales and you're going to lose supporters and you're going to lose, there's going to be some sort of competition. There's like,
and I think a lot of conservatives are very cowed by all of that. It's like, no, there are a lot of us. Like, there's no a phrase that I hear on both sides is there are more of us than there are of them. I've heard that from both.
Oh yeah, they all say it.
Everybody says it. But it's, like half the country did vote for Trump. You're not alone. There's this idea that, Okay, so I mean, obviously you were harassed for having conservative patterns, but there were a lot of people who actually supported you, and
There were. But I think because they have a tendency to get shouted down, the people were quieter about it.
right.
And so it may look, and I know the left really hates it when we say like, oh, there's the silent majority, but there really is, because
Right.
I've said it to you before. I don't talk religion and politics because I know where I stand.
Right.
And
Which
I'm not going to fight with you about it.
Right.
So if you are going to try to shout at me until I agree with you, I'm just not going to talk to you.
Right. But it's
and
also
I think there's
funny.
a lot of people that feel that way, though.
Right. No, but there's also, it's, I don't talk religion and politics, but people clearly want you to talk religion and politics because that's your popular patterns.
Well, there is that.
Like, there's people who are like, yes, finally. Even though you don't, if you want to have a discussion, you don't want the shouting match or just the shut you down. You said that, therefore you're.
Exactly. I'm happy to sit and talk with somebody who wants to really talk to me and exchange ideas and have a conversation. I'm not going to sit there and be shouted at.
Right.
And I don't know. I haven't been bullied as much as some of the other people that have been that have had these issues in the knitting community. And I think part of it is because it's pretty clear where I stand and what I stand for. And I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to kneel to you. I'm going to do what I'm doing and we're going to move on. And you don't have to like it. Yeah.
Like, and also it's not as if it's not a surprise I'm conservative. What? And
I know. That Trump 2020 pattern means you like him? What?
No, and I think there's a lot of designers, because again, I've followed all of these yarn controversies quite closely. But where people will message other people privately and being like, oh man, I'm not into this. I'm not into canceling people. I think it's horrible. And then publicly they'll fly the "We support Ravelry" banner because they're afraid of being harassed. And like,
and there's companies that do it. Like even now, I know of some that have put out statements that maybe don't say like, yay, Ravelry, but they don't say, Ravelry, you suck. They kind of like, hold that line, because the cancel culture is true and it's real. And this is people's livelihoods.
Yeah. Well, when it first came out, Nitpicks, I know, did a "We support Ravelry," and they very much said, we, I know that they were all very like, well, we denounce white supremacy and we're for diversity. I'm like, okay, everybody agrees with you there. Yeah. Everybody agrees, denounce white supremacy. That's terrible. And everybody is for diversity, but that's not what Ravelry's statement was. A lot of people took it to be that way. Like, okay, yes, of course we support diversity. That's ridiculous to not support diversity. But at the same time, that was not Ravelry's statement. Ravelry's statement that everybody who dares to support the President of the United States, he is saying that he is a white supremacist, and therefore all the people who support him are white supremacists, and that is that. There is no conversation. If you talk to them about it, you'll be deleted. If you try to talk, like, it's absolutely people who just didn't even talk to it publicly, again, on Ravelry, sent a complaining email, deleted.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think that the people have forgotten that white supremacists aren't ashamed to be white supremacists.
No, they're not.
If you ask somebody who is, they will happily tell you that they are. Yeah. And so to paint all these just regular people like that is pretty crappy. But the other thing about the announcement was, they continued to keep, I know that there's the F Trump patterns that are on there.
Oh, definitely.
There's the pincushion. There's the that baby balloon thing that they had. I think they had it in London, that Trump baby. They have a amigurumi pattern for that. And so it's not just that it's such a double standard. Right. It's we are getting rid of a group of people to make a safe space, but only for these people that we like. Right. You people you don't like?
Yeah, we can say as many horrible, vile things about your candidate, but you can't say just supporting statements of yours.
Right. And that's, I think more than anything, it was the being called a white supremacist, and it was the blatant double standard.
Right.
Because, like I said, there's the disconnect between, if you believe these things, you are a bad person.
Right.
So if you support the president, you yourself are a bad person, as
Right.
opposed to the way we look at things, where it's, I think that you're probably a good person.
No,
You don't
like
think
I
that
don't
you're bad
understand
for
how you
supporting-
believe what you. Well, that's not entirely true. Like I disagree with what you believe. To some extent, I can see where you believe it. Like, but it doesn't make sense.
I think a lot of people deep down have good intentions.
Right.
I truly believe that.
Right. But yeah, the benefit of the doubt is clearly one-sided. And many liberal people that I know, that they're, I've had some people like say something, just like interpersonally, like, oh, Trump is a bigoted, whatever. Like, can't believe those people who support him. Again, and I'm just like sitting there like, but
Yeah,
I
those
do.
bastards.
I know.
Sorry.
like I'm just sitting there like, like I can't believe that these scum of the earth are walking among us. And I'm like, hi. Like, oh, but I actually, there was actually overheard a conversation of something about Trump supporters. And they mentioned another person that I know, like, oh, but he wouldn't be a Trump supporter. He's reasonable. And I'm like, pretty sure he is. Like, no, but it's the assumption that anyone that you meet who isn't the great Satan, therefore, must not be a Trump supporter, because the only reasonable side is the non-Trump supporting side. If I'm like, well, I don't agree with you, okay, but I can, like, I don't think that you're a horrible, I'm done with you human being for supporting a different candidate than I do. Like, how can you get around in the world thinking that way? But apparently you can.
And it's like super popular too.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
We could talk about that all day.
True.
I mean,
yeah.
Because I just don't understand I don't understand a lot of it.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now that really, I just don't even have any way to, it's really sad and it's really disheartening, and we'll never figure it out, unfortunately. But
yeah, that's a bummer. But we're here.
We are here. And we are going to try to figure some of this stuff out.
Right.
And we are going to try to talk more knitting in the future. But it was really super important to us to try to start, like, everybody knows, not everybody, most people know about the Ravelry thing that happened last year.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of people were aware that it had happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people were aware that it was kind of always happening behind the scenes. Like,
right.
The stuff people said to me, I had one person removed because she said some really terrible things about me. Like, they deleted her account, which I give them props for.
Right.
But there was a lot of pretty bad bullying and stuff, and it was never really addressed. It was never an issue for them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that thing happened in June, but there were years and years and years leading up to it.
Right. And a lot of people who, like us, I mean, before you publish patterns and stuff, would only log into Ravelry every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, on a couple of online forums that I've seen, that they're like only just realizing that stuff like that happened, even almost a year later now. Yeah. They'll go through like, oh, wait, what happened with Ravelry? Wait, I don't support this. And also, sure you saw that Ravelry does this fun thing where you can only have so many downloads off their account in a day, because people were clearing out all of their stuff before they bailed on the website.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to download anything because I was just removed. So I didn't ever have to deal with that. But yeah, I did hear that was an issue.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. And people not supporting that new policy, eh? But anyways, but yeah, that there are, and also the yarn community, not everyone is in the yarn community. there are many people who just knit and don't talk about it online.
Right.
So, and you know, that's, and it creates kind of a smaller view too of crafting and people who knit, of there's a certain amount of people who are out there, and I guess influencers is the newer term. But before the Ravelry thing, I never I followed the hashtag on Instagram, Knitters of Ravelry, just because I wanted to see new stuff that was coming out every once in a while, kind of get new ideas for my own stuff. But I don't think I followed like a specific knitter, maybe a couple, but not to any, like all of the big names that they were talking about. And this happened over here and this happened over here. And oh, this is a really influential person. I have literally never heard of you in my life.
I got accused of copying someone when I said, who?
Yeah,
people were like, you have to know them. And I'm like, pretty sure I don't, because I don't. So
never heard of them before.
And that's the thing about the position I'm in, because I didn't plan on designing, just like you.
Right.
I'm not up on the yarn thing. I don't know people. I don't know patterns. I don't follow. I mean, I follow people now, but back then I didn't. I was just doing my thing, hanging out,
just,
playing with my kids, whatever.
Yeah. Knitting when you feel like it.
And then people were like, you copy, like, that's a person? Are you sure?
Like, I never heard of them, so pretty sure they don't exist.
My copying game is pretty strong then if I don't know who they are.
Well, yeah, like I did something with the Intarsia, and I'm like, I've never seen anyone do any of this, but I'm not, like, again, I don't know, like, I do Intarsia, but when I do Intarsia, it's because I'm sitting there and I'm doing my own charts. Like, I don't know if I've ever actually gone out and followed an Intarsia pattern. So, I'm sitting there playing with my own stuff, and I'm like, oh, so I'm writing a pattern now. Is there like a term that I should be using to describe this? Is there like a set down knit pattern method to say what I'm doing? Because I actually don't know.
Yeah.
So, which was part of testing. I'm like, so guys, good luck with what do you call this? So I'm doing this thing with like yarn and needles, but if there's a word for that, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Let me know.
Yeah.
And that's how I am when I write patterns. So sometimes it's painful because I'm like, well, I know how I made it, but and like, how do I write that down? Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's the thing. So Anne and I are total noobs when it comes to designing. We don't know other designers.
Very newbie.
We try to keep track with what's going on because it's important to us. I mean, somehow we started being people that talked out about this, so now we're doing it. But next time, I think
more you than me, but I'm with you.
Awesome.
There's more nerds like me out there. They're with you too.
Thanks. But we are gonna talk more about knitting. I actually hope to have some knitting next week. It's just that these things happen. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're gonna talk about it from our viewpoint, because I get a lot of messages from people still to this day saying, I haven't knit since the Ravelry thing. Yeah. I'm so discouraged. And I don't know. I think that the point of us talking to ourselves is that
I'm here, you're here, and the snoring dog. So that's good.
But we're not the only ones. There's a lot of people out there who feel like we do.
There are.
And so Anne and I are going to be here to encourage and, I don't know, maybe bring some clarity to some stuff and hopefully some inspiration. Mm-hmm. We will be knitting. I swear. We will be knitting at some point during this.
I actually brought my knitting.
I have mine too, but it was color work. I can't do that while I'm talking.
Oh, no. I'm doing a Star of David hat. It's fun.
We have a cool, Anne and I are working on a huge collaboration together. It's going to be so much fun, and hopefully we'll be talking about that as time goes on. It's probably not going to be a pattern, but I won't say it never will be a pattern.
No, we might. Maybe do some charts and stuff, but maybe.
But it's going to be for museum exhibit, and so the next several months, that's probably a lot of what we're going to be working on while we talk. But yeah, so I hope everybody enjoyed this and that we will do it again soon.
Yeah.
And anything else?
I don't think so. Like,
Well,
comment, subscribe.
like, comment, subscribe. Exactly.
Have
And
something
there'll be
nasty to say it in multiple comments. More comments, the better.
more comments, the better.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll see you again.
All right, bye.
Bye.